This is a meeting of the Fall River Commission on Disability for Thursday, April 11th, 2019, in the City Council chamber. And we're going to begin with Commissioner Ray will read us the open meeting law statement.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Okay. Is there any public input?
No one here,
No.
Jenna.
Okay. And we go on to roll.
I'm sorry, Tammy?
No, she's got a section.
Oh, okay.
Tammy's going to come under ADA.
I'm sorry.
Is she here?
There's no public input.
Oh, she's back there.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Commissioner Chairman Dennis Baselli.
Here.
Chairwoman Debbie Pacheco.
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Silva.
Here.
Commissioner Kathy Ann Viveras.
Here.
Commissioner Robert Ray.
Here.
Commissioner Shawjay Michael Hoare.
Here.
Attorney Gary Howiak is absent.
Okay. Next is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 14th, 2019.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of March 14th, 2019.
Okay.
And I will second that motion.
Did I say that right, by the way?
You sure did.
Okay. All right, is there any, are there any corrections or anything like that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next is our guest, I think, yeah. Mr. Eric Rousseau from SRTA, his annual visit to update us on any disability-related issues in transportation. Welcome, Mr. Rousseau.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm here a little bit later than normal. I think I usually make it here in November.
Yes.
But we had to reschedule a few times. But again, thank you for having me. I would say one of the biggest things that we have going on right now is that we have a ITS, or Intelligent Transportation Systems project that we finally are working on yes, sure, it's easy for me to say, systems acceptance for. Once that systems acceptance goes through, we'll start our burn-in period. And what that means for the average passenger that's riding on our fixed route systems is that eventually, in the next few months, we will have display boards that have the estimated time of arrival at our terminals initially for when the vehicles, each route, are going to be coming in. So that'll help people have a better understanding of when the service will be coming by, and they're not just blindly waiting and hoping and praying that the bus is going to be there. People will be able to have access to that on their cell phones through an app. So we're working right now with both Google Play, I believe, or not sure what their market is called at this point, and Apple's market as well, to get that app registered and set up and ready to go. So that's really going to be, I think, a game changer, especially for people that aren't at the terminal. And the example I've always used is that my wife will wait next to a rail line forever because she's confident that a train will come down tracks. But with a bus, you never know when it's been detoured or hung up in traffic or where it may be. And along those lines as well, for the demand response fleet specifically, we're also going to have AVL for those vehicles as well. And they will have mobile data terminals on board that will allow for what we would refer to as either real-time updates. So drivers could have their manifests changed more rapidly. Right now they're going out with a piece of paper and it's very static and it's hard to update. And if a driver has availability to help out where there might be more of a need, it's more difficult right now to reallocate that resource. So that will be a big boost for us and certainly help people get picked up more quickly. Other than that, we haven't had a lot of schedule changes. We've kind of been waiting for this ITS project to kind of take hold. When we have all the technology implemented, we'll have stop level boarding data and the lighting data for the bus. So we'll know when a stop is used once a day or 200 times a day. And that's going to help us better inform when we want to try to get other transit amenities out, whether it be a bench or something like a shelter, and to better serve all of our customers. I don't know if Dennis had sent me a few questions, but I don't know if you want me to go into that now or if you wanted to tackle them one by one, or if there were any other questions you wanted to go into first.
You can go into that now.
Okay. So one of the questions that Dennis had sent is what we do currently to work with the deaf community. And so right now we do have on our information to contact Mass Relay, the 711 number, and we have their link on our information as well. And whenever we have notices, and any type of change that we make at all, we do have printed notices that we include with everything, and we post that in the relevant area. So if it's specific to bus stops, usually there'll be something both in our terminal and at that bus stop to help inform people. And then, of course, on our website, we do have information. But I was glad that Dennis asked the question, because it kind of brought up to me that, so there's probably and almost definitely more that we could do, and we'd be happy to get that information and see what else we could do to better work with the deaf community.
Does anybody have any,
Thoughts and questions?
yeah,
No, I do.
good.
With regards to, as you say, with the deaf community, and I'm thinking along the lines that it's good, printed items are always good. I live by the printed word, so, thank you. I live by the printed word, and so basically, that's good to see that, and I do see those postings, because I use the bus extensively myself. What I'm wondering about, because I'm becoming aware that there's a larger population of deaf people in this city than I was aware of, and then I think this commission was even aware of, perhaps, and as well as the other members. I'm wondering if maybe the SRTA has looked into finding, they have now, if I remember correctly, because I do not use sign language, but I do know that there are many who do, that have poster-style informative posters that have brief sign language messages, very brief. Sign language can sometimes be extensive, but there are types of posters available that can be created for helping deaf people navigate the system with simple directions of where to get change, where to find out information that they can get that's in sign language. Because not always do deaf people who sign read English or have an easy time reading English. Sign language is a language by itself, so even just the inclusion of some basic poster boards, style prices in sign and things like that. Just some, if you understand my general gist.
I think I do.
There's something I would think would be good to look into.
Yeah. Is there a commission that I could reach out to, we work with Julie Braun from Mass
Rehab.
From Mass Rehab, I think. Do you know of anybody that has done that yet that I could reach out to and get examples
The
of?
immediate resource for this area, particularly for Fall River, that comes to my mind always is BCC, with their rather extensively developed disability services office, and they have dealt with the deaf population as well as other disabled populations extensively over their history throughout the years. And just as a simple, not that they would, I'm sure, I'm confident, render some informational assistance at the least, and who knows, there may even be opportunities to create educational opportunities to work out. They have a whole, not only just general disabled, but they have a deaf program over there. Maybe they could be, entreated to join in and do something. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the thoughts, immediate thoughts that comes to my mind with just what we talked about with the deaf community help.
That's a great point.
And I was just thinking about, while I have the floor, if I may, you also mentioned the app that will be created that is an informational in terms of timing of the buses and locations and things like that.
Yes.
Now, I have a lot of experience with buses throughout the Eastern Seaboard, and I've used apps like that in other cities, and I found it very convenient. They had it even with the stops. I could type in the number of stop I was at, that each stop was assigned them, and I could tell, they told me when the bus would even be coming by. Will the app go that far?
I can't say offhand. I
Okay.
can say that our stops, in order to build the database, every stop has a unique number. And one of the things that I've seen that has been done successfully in other locations is to get that stop number at each stop so that we can do what you're talking
That, yeah,
about.
geolocating everything, that, I understand, that's the process, mapping it and acknowledging. But the system that I was first exposed to was in Florida, was the size of Rhode Island, just this one system, and so they had to have it together. But it was a wonderful thing, and public transportation, even like down here, like, it should be Sunday buses. Life doesn't stop on Sunday, if I can throw that in there. But no, that, as I say, that was a concern. I want to know how far that app goes, because that's a very good thing, because many people, not just everyone in general, but the deaf people in particular, do rely on that as a text-based and even image-based way of doing things.
Yeah.
And I know I had another question, but it's gone now, so you get off on that one.
So can you transfer the app to different, like say, the MBTA has services, can you transfer that, or is it just in the SRTA service area?
So the app will only be supported by our database here. If you're saying that you would travel to Boston, would our app be of use or help to you there? It wouldn't. It would only have our route information and our
That would make
our
sense.
information.
So it's local specific?
Yes.
Okay.
There is, there has been discussion about the idea of trying to get at least the 15 RTAs into a common platform when it comes to websites, when it comes to having apps. But one of the big challenges is that we've always worked somewhat independently, in that we buy our own system, Brockton buys their own system, and Haverhill buys their own system. So it could be cumbersome to get all that together into one cohesive package without a large capital outlay, but certainly not impossible, because eventually it all boils down to some sort of GTFS file that should be able to be, live streamed, exported out of all of these systems, and could potentially go to a single housing unit. So there is a potential in the future to have a single Massachusetts Commonwealth-wide app. That is definitely a ways down the road.
Now, being SRTA, as you are covering both New Bedford and Fall River, now is this app transferable between those two cities? Okay, so now because of the
Yes.
common system, what's common to that system will work. So
Absolutely.
at least we could branch out from here. If I wanted to go to Fall River and use it, it would also work there.
Yep, absolutely.
So would it be useful in towns like Swansea and Somerset?
Anywhere we have service, so certainly anywhere we have a fixed route service, and also our partnership with GATRA to go to Wareham, we'll be
Oh, GATRA
working
too?
to get that at some point. It
nice.
won't be initially online, but that will be one of our focuses too.
I have a question. We had Disability Awareness Day last year, and I know when I was in the Boston area, we always had the MBTA's Office for Transportation Access participate. They set up a booth or a table and demonstrated some of the things. Would you be amenable to doing something like that with SRTA?
Absolutely. Our customer service manager and ADA coordinator would absolutely do that. We try to, anytime we find out about an event, we try to get on their radar, and we're happy to go. We go to job fairs, we go to health fairs, anything where you think that we can be of a use to the community that's coming, we're happy to go. And that was here in Fall River, you were saying?
Cuss Middle School.
He
in
can mark
September.
his calendar.
On September 28th.
There you go.
How about if I send you an email?
Right, and
Perfect.
then he can send you the contact information, so I can put it on my list.
And this is at the annual Disability
Yes.
Awareness Day, so it's a big event. It could be a good event as well. It is intended to be a good event for everyone, so
Great,
just so you know.
yeah.
So I'll send
And
you.
for things like that too, if it's a large enough event or there's an outdoor element of it, would be happy to bring a vehicle.
I
if
was
that would
already
be
thinking
helpful.
that. Like the kids could take a look at it. It'd be
Yep.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Good.
Yep.
That's great.
I have a question.
Anybody? Yeah, go
So
ahead.
in regard to the demand response, once the application is submitted to you guys, what's the turnaround time for a person to get approval?
Once an application is completed, we're supposed to turn that around within 21 days.
Okay.
And if it's not turned around within 21 days, we're supposed to grant full eligibility until that temporary eligibility, until that process is completed.
Okay, good to know.
And just for people who may not be familiar with the whole process, particularly with the disability community, in a very general way, what do you look for in an application process?
So we have, it is a little bit more extensive now. We've been working with our partners at the FTA to modernize our application a little bit. So we're trying to assess somebody's ability to possibly utilize fixed route transportation and what may inhibit their ability to access fixed route transportation. And if, there's a determination that we agree, yes, there are barriers that really you aren't going to be able to overcome to access fixed route transportation, then we do grant somebody access to our ADA transportation. Our fixed route buses are all low floor, with the exception of 3, which we will get rid of hopefully in the next year or so. And they all have ramps, so it's easy to get on board, generally speaking. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody can ride it. Somebody may have issues, environmental issues, or being out with too many people, whether it's noise, whether it's allergies. There's different things that we try to work on. We do rely on healthcare professionals and their portion of filling out the application. Something that we're going to be working on is that right now, when somebody's eligibility expires, we make everybody, regardless of their history with the authority, reapply. And we're working with FTA to sort of streamline that a little bit, to say that generally speaking, there are many clients that once they've hit a certain point, they're not going to necessarily improve. So why are we making them go through this
Right.
process? So what FTA is, the guidance that we're generally getting at this point is to say, okay, let's reach out and contact them, make sure that they're still at the same phone number, living in the same place, and still need our services. And on our end, we'll document that, yep, this client has been with us for X years, and status quo from the last time we checked in with them, and we're good to go. They're reauthorized for another 4 years.
So it's every 4 years they would have to reapply?
Right now, we do make people reapply every 4
4
years,
years.
but we're looking to eliminate that. It's a lot of work for us, and generally speaking, our clients stay our clients.
Yeah.
And you, you mentioned that what's the difference between ADA and fixed routes?
So the ADA complimentary paratransit transportation, more commonly referred to as demand response here, is required by ADA to serve within 3/4 of a mile of any fixed route bus stop during the hours of operation that bus stop is served. Now, SRTA's policy has always been to serve all of the communities that are part of the authority. So we serve all 10 communities, every square inch of those 10 communities, and we do it from the time the first fixed route bus rolls in the morning to the last one comes off the road at night. And if our friend Dan Robillard was here, he would remind me that we practice reverse discrimination on Sundays by providing paratransit service between the hours of 9 to 6.
Do you still practice reverse discrimination on Sunday?
We do. We do it willingly. We do it happily. And it is something that it might be growing, hopefully, in the Commonwealth. I just had the opportunity to serve on a task force for regional transportation funding and performance. And ADA complimentary paratransit service has always been considered a function of fixed route. And it's really antiquated to think that way. It's just another type of transportation. It's a taxi, it's like bikes, it's like trains, it's just another type of transportation. So when we think about it from that prism, it doesn't really cost us much more to operate that service on Sundays. It doesn't cost us that much more to operate every square inch of the 10 communities that we serve. And it really helps the people that we serve tremendously more to do so. So why wouldn't we take that opportunity to do it? So I'm very proud of the service that we have, and it's something that people are opening their eyes to.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So, are individuals able to have an escort with them? And if so, do they have to, have special paperwork done by the physician that states they need someone to go with them? Or are they all allowed an escort?
So everybody is eligible to have a PCA, a personal care attendant, and all that we ask is that the client let the reservationist know at the time of booking that they will be bringing a PCA with them, and that the PCA would not have to pay a fare. Any additional companions would pay the normal fare, the normal demand response fare, which is $3.
Anyone else?
I'm just wondering, following this particular topic, and just while they are unrelated, they are related about the taxi issue. And if there is some tie to this in some way that can be, to bring resolution to that as well, either closing it or, getting maybe further information while we have this gentleman here.
Well, it's funny you should bring that up.
I believe that was Dennis's next question.
I was talking to the transition team that's doing the city's self-assessment, because my relationship with them goes way, way back, 25 years even. And I got a lengthy email yesterday from Valerie Fletcher, who's the director of the, I can never say the name of the organization, but it used to be Adaptive Environments, but it's Institute of,
For human-centered design.
thank you.
That was his lifeline.
Thank you. And I, and we kind of corresponded back and forth, because I realized that taxi service is under Title III. It's not a Title II, so it wouldn't come under a self-assessment. But medallions are approved by a Title II body, which is the city council. So she shared with me what a number of communities in Massachusetts are doing, and they are working with their with their regional transit authorities in some cases for some kind of, like in Boston, where they do have 24-hour taxi service, where they're working on something with their regional authority to kind of share accessible wheelchair vans during after hours. The taxi companies are. I wonder, I know I sent this to you like late last night, but I wonder if you could, if you had a chance to see that, or what your thoughts might be on maybe working with the taxi companies and regional transit authority to share vehicles after hours, for the taxi companies to share after service hours, so that wheelchair users could have 24-hour taxi service.
I hadn't thought about that as an issue. I didn't quite pick up on that portion of what you had forwarded to me. I do know a little bit about the MBTA pilot that you had sent me. The MBTA had piloted a program where they were going to work with Uber, Lyft, and I believe Curb as well, to subsidize trips for ride passengers. And the program, I believe, was supposed to allow for the passenger to pay their normal fare that they would when taking the ride, and then the T was going to subsidize the rest of that cost, because generally speaking, those services can do it at a per trip cost that is much lower than what the T can actually provide directly. And they were hoping that that might be a way to save money. And I think that Valerie did allude to the fact that it was incredibly popular and actually is costing the T a lot more money, which is a good thing. People have more access. They have it when they need it. They have it when they want it. But obviously, our budget also is very constrained, and It would be a great challenge for us to take on, subsidizing trips to that level. But I think that there's certainly ways that we can help. And Dennis and I had talked about trying to work with Fall River Taxi at one time. We had offered to train anybody that was going to drive an accessible vehicle, anybody that was going to do maintenance on an accessible vehicle, at no cost to that entity. We just wanted to ensure that it was being operated properly. And actually, I talked to my counterpart at GATRA, who does all of the human service transportation for this area, and they offered to do the same if there were any cab companies that were available to do that. But that doesn't address the issue of the vehicles. Again, with Fall River Taxi, we had sent some listings of used vehicles that we were aware of that transit authorities were going to be moving on from. Generally speaking, those vehicles are still in really good working condition. But the cost of fixing them becomes greater than what the FTA wants to invest in fixing it, and they would rather buy you a new one so that you're getting more use out of it. We're using more capital dollars to sort of offset the operating expense by buying newer, better vehicles. Sharing vehicles that we operate directly, we haven't done it, so I don't know. Off the top of my head, it does make me a little bit nervous because now there's a new layer of liability that we'd have to ensure that the drivers are all thoroughly vetted, properly trained, drug tested in our drug testing pool, I would imagine, because they are federally funded vehicles. So that those aren't insurmountable challenges, but just off the top of my head, those are the first things that kind of pop in.
Anybody else?
I believe also that there have been instances where communities have worked with MassDOT to get accessible vehicles that have been given directly to cab companies with the understanding that they would keep them on the road, keep them in good order, and work very hard to ensure that they're available all the hours that they operate so that they would be able to better serve the disabled community. I don't know if I don't know specifically who has done it, but I feel like I've heard about those awards that they've done. MassDOT has a mobility assistance program where they distribute vehicles when they're applied for them. So that's something that we could certainly work on if we found a good partner to work with here in Fall River. We could put in a joint application to try to do that.
Okay, because we will be we'll be doing a status update with the City Council Committee on Ordinances and Legislation. I'm hoping sometime, in the next couple of months or so. Are there any other questions for Mr. Russo? Mr. Russo, thank you very, very
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
Thank you.
taking the time.
I really appreciate the opportunity to come and an opportunity to learn. There's always something new for us to learn and a way that we can improve, so I appreciate your help in that effort.
And I think our work group will be in touch with you further particularly on the taxi issue, so.
Fantastic.
And then don't forget to send them the information for
Oh,
disability
yes.
awareness.
And for Disability
Yes.
Awareness
We'd
Day.
love to have a bus or
Yes.
a van.
So September
Very-
28th.
Yes.
September 28th, 11 to 2, Cuss Middle School.
Perfect. We'll be happy to be there and we'll bring whatever you'd like.
I appreciate this message.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're on to work groups and updates, and Tammy, you're welcome to join us at the table.
She's on her way.
Okay,
Hello. Hello.
hello. So the first item on the work groups is ADA updates. And I've asked Tammy to join us for any updates. Tammy Maltino is the facilities maintenance project manager.
Thank you, Dennis. Good afternoon, everybody. So, not much has changed since our last meeting that was held on March 14th, I believe, because the the assessment team from the Institute for Human Centered Design had just visited 2 days prior to. They surveyed all the polling places live on election day, which was a huge asset for them. They did come back, I believe, the following day, and they did all the fire department locations, Government Center, Oak Grove Cemetery, the DPW complex on Lewiston Street. So they've surveyed all of those locations. They still have a handful of locations to come back and visit, which would be the parks, all the parks and playgrounds, fire museum, animal control building, all the council on aging, senior centers. I believe the library and I think they're going to do the harbor boardwalk as well as the veteran center. So that's what's left.
They have a June 30th deadline,
Correct.
and today is April 11th.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be able to do all that in that?
They will. I have full faith in them. And I know, Commissioner, you had touched base with me regarding, you were kind of hoping you'd have a little bit more interaction in between now and the June date that they had set to come and meet with your committee.
Yeah, they're coming on, just to bring everybody up to snuff, they're coming to a full commission meeting on June 13th, the Thursday, June 13th. I'm not sure, because they mentioned there was also, we're supposed to do some kind of a public hearing, so I'm not sure if they mean for that meeting to serve that purpose or not. I'll be waiting for more information, but I do know that they've set June 13th as the date to come and meet with us.
Correct. And Valerie Fletcher, who you've had interaction with, she has also suggested that if you'd like to have some more interaction in between, that anyone on the commission is more than welcome to join the teams when they come to do their site surveys at any of the remaining locations. You're welcome to join them on those days, or if the commission would like to meet with the team that is here on that day.
Do they have any
you're welcome.
advanced scheduling of those, do they have
They
any? I
haven't-
know they work them as they get them, if you will, but do
Right.
they have any sense of what they're doing? Because I would be interested in something like that.
Yeah, they haven't given me their next scheduled dates to come in. I did ask for that, and I told them that I was meeting with you today, and that I would relay if you would be interested as well, so I can
Yeah, 'cause
definitely
I'll
let
put that
you
on the table
know.
now for you, and, you know, if you would.
Yeah, and we'll CC you in the email, or I'll forward you the email when they send me those dates.
Okay, because I
and,
mean,
we
I
can
have questions
definitely-
regarding all this today, so.
Yeah, they send a team. They usually work in, I believe, like 3 teams for the most part, and I think there's 2 of them. They do a lot of note-taking, picture-taking, so it's pretty interesting. But they're very thorough, and they're young kids, so they move.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine.
They cover a lot of
I have 3 of my
territory.
own, so. I
yeah.
have 3 I ran with, so.
Yeah, so they're good.
I'll
It's
stay out
good.
of your way.
Yeah.
Other than that, besides the self-assessment and transition plan, we have the new Durfee going on. They've been working with Commissioner Silva here very closely regarding the hearing impaired piece. And I believe they've come up with a product
Yeah.
that is
Be compatible
Compa-
with other
with-
hearing
Oh, the school
system
with the,
technology.
the new
yeah,
school.
yeah. So, and that's
At what-
about where we stand.
So at what point, because I know this is a lengthy process, but at what point might we be able to, I mean, I would have concerns about signage, for example, those kinds of things. So at what point might we be able to provide some input?
Okay, are you talking about the self-assessment and transition plan?
No,
Or
the
Durfee?
Durfee, yeah, Durfee.
I'm not sure on that because that, that's we still have a long road ahead for that project. But I'm sure that they will be reaching out to the commission once again when we're at that point. When we have some walls up, maybe.
That is a long-term
Yeah,
project.
yeah, so we're at the beginning and,
But Ms. Motino is an active participant in that committee, so she'll have firsthand knowledge of the timing and so, I mean, she can certainly keep us apprised and, in a timely manner. So having her actively participating in that process, I think we can be assured that we'll be
Oh, with
notified.
with the school? Okay.
Yes.
yeah, I'm constantly speaking with the architect and the OPM regarding the ADA piece. Letting them know that, I'm a liaison between both groups as well.
We
So,
appreciate that.
we're good.
Yep, thank you.
So now, if I can, if we're good with the school for the moment, if I can just go back to the ADA just momentarily. Now, I understand they've had many surveys already so far. They've been very busy, and they've conducted a number of surveys, and there are still some to be conducted, of course. And a lot of it is site surveys, if I'm understanding right. And so that, in my mind, directs the movement towards mobility issues. How much work has been done or is anticipated to be done for the non-mobility issues, if you will? I
They
haven't
could
heard much-
answer that question better than I can.
I'm sure, okay,
because
that's certainly a large
know-
part of it, and as well as, what the
Right,
website to me is gonna be
territory.
tied into it, because I'm beginning to figure out a lot more things as a term of communication. So
So
that's
that's
part of why I
where
wanna,
it's-
that's part of why I wanna connect with people
Yep,
directly.
that's where it's gonna be a great advantage that you're willing to meet with the team, go on particular, site visits.
Yeah,
and-
once I connect with someone, it will be different, and that
Right.
would be great. Because I'm
So-
wondering also, because we have our next scheduled meeting, we have no one really on schedule, do we, Mr. Pacelli?
Not in May, no.
No, not me, because I'm almost wondering if, while we are meeting with the Design Center in June, and there is the question of some type of public input, I'm wondering if maybe just to put it on the table, if we could not, in our own capacity, do some sort of seeking out for input just for our own sake to be prepared for June, so that way it can assist it to be quicker and not have to get last minute thoughts and suggestions from someone maybe on June with the deadline for the plan to be submitted is in June, isn't it?
Yes.
June 30th.
Okay, so we're kind of cutting it close, having the center come here for our June meeting, and literally have only a couple of weeks with a purely public exposure, if you will, here on record in one of the meetings. So I'm trying to figure out how, and offer and put on the table, how we might best use our time, particularly with this upcoming meeting, and being sort of free to maybe advance the agenda of just getting input and getting ready for closing it up and wrapping it up tight.
I'll relay your concerns to Valerie Fletcher
Okay.
and Anna Julian.
She was one of the women who was at the meeting, wasn't she?
Correct.
Yes,
Both
if I
of those
remember.
women were there. So I'll relay that.
Okay.
And I'll also email you the list of remaining sites to be
Okay.
visited, so that if there are any sites in particular that you would like to join in on, we can make that happen for you.
I'll pick one that I think will work well for helping me communicate my thoughts and
And
concerns to the
at that
widest.
point, at that time, you can also relay to the team, your concerns about being ready for the final assessment. And keep in mind that this is an assessment and a
Right.
plan of action to move
Right,
forward.
there's nothing,
So-
it is that whole gathering of information and just creating knowledge about the situation.
Exactly.
kinda
And
like
then
a
moving
roadmap.
forward, when we hopefully get more grants and we're actually able to start the improvements that
Exactly. But we
we're
have to start
definitely
somewhere.
need.
We have to start somewhere, and
needed
this
your
is where it
input.
starts.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You're welcome.
Are there any more questions for Tammy?
We're good? All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No updates at this time.
Finance. Do we have the monthly budget report for March?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
As of March 31st, we have $392,343.87. Our expenses so far this fiscal year were $82,543.18, which gives us a pooled cash total currently of $309,800.69.
Thank you. The next item is outreach. So this is besides Disability Awareness Day. We will be coming to you next month with a request, because we're trying to put together a social event. It will be a day of a few hours actually of bowling in Westport, open to the disability community. It'll be bowling and pizza, and I think we've been working in our outreach work group about the importance of getting some socialization going on in the disability community for children and adults as well. It's just I think one of the things that's been an issue down in, at least since I've come back to Fall River, but I know that I've talked about it with a number of persons in the disability community, is really the lack of cohesion and getting together and socializing, and also advocacy from time to time on issues that really need to hear from, where the community really needs to hear more from a group. So this is a starter, and it will be on, I think we're looking at Saturday, June 15th. Is that right, Lisa?
Yes.
In Westport. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa for specifics. And then next month, we will be asking for financing, but we just want to right now get all our ducks lined up before we did that, so.
Do you want me to get into prices and stuff like that? Because you
Yeah.
pretty much explained, I don't know.
Yeah, we can get into that.
Okay, so I contacted Westport Holiday Lanes, and they told me that price per person would be $10 per person. That would include 2 hours of bowling, and then the bowling shoes. Pizza would be purchased from whatever location we wanted to purchase, and then would be delivered to the site. They would help with the cleanup and distributing of the pizza. I believe they mentioned pitchers of soda would be $3.50 a pitcher. And we looked at other options, like maybe a hall and entertainment, or, you know, a restaurant that was accessible, but it was pretty costly, and we really wanted to do something for the disabled community to, you know, meet other people and network with other families. So this was you know, more cost effective, and still, you know, a great opportunity for people to get together and meet new people, so.
We're meeting next month, actually this month, with the new special education director for the school department.
Yeah.
So that would be part of our network of getting the word out, because we want to keep it within the disability community. But we'll be meeting with them on other issues too, not just this, but that would be part of our outreach.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Hello, Lisa. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great concept. We find that even outside of the disability community, that sometimes young people don't really have opportunities with, you know, good, clean, healthy socialization activities. So I think this is very good. I guess my question is, do we as a commission consider providing some sort of financial assistance to families that may not be able to participate with this cost? And I don't know what the demographic is going to be But if you're dad and 2 children, or, you know, mom and dad want to come with
Yeah.
their children, I mean, the price could add up. And I'm just wondering, I don't know that we've done that in the past, but I would hate to see a family, and I'm assuming most people would come with at least one other
Right.
individual,
Right.
be excluded because, you know, the cost was a barrier, and I'm sure for many families it wouldn't be, but I'm just wondering if there's any provision for that, or if we need to make accommodation.
I think that's what Dennis was gonna bring up next meeting, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
The funding for that?
Yeah, I think next month we'll come with a specific proposal for funding.
I wasn't sure if that was just the cost of the pizza, or if it was the actual subsidy to the
$10 per person,
participants.
whereas just the cost of bowling.
Right, so.
And then you figure maybe 2 slices per person, maybe 1 for a child if you're lucky, they eat. So yeah, there's a few things that we need to figure out. If we're gonna totally fund the event, we limit it to so many people.
We did figure out the cost if we were to totally fund the event, and that would amount to about $2,000 or $3,000. And when you consider what we have in our account, that's not a terrible amount of money. You know, but that's, again, we'll bring the whole package next month so you can see how much.
I imagine that's part of right now, because everyone's kind of coalescing and just bringing in their thoughts all together. I mean, everyone's
Yeah.
getting used to how everyone thinks on the particular issue as anything happens. But that's my understanding, is expectation that next month we'll have some fairly concrete ideas. 'Cause your concern is valid. I know, it was lurking in my mind, but you put it in words well. What if there's a family that wants to come but has an obstacle, financial obstacle, so something we need to plan. But I look at this as an opportunity also, as that networking aspect. As you say, Mr. Pacelli, what we need some more socialization, but there's also, I realized when I first heard you talk about that last meeting, was this, we're looking for some solidarity and getting the word out that there is a community of disabled people, a large community here in the city. I don't think really many of the disabled people in the city are aware of the fact that there are many others like themselves. It just seems typical to be disabled is to be disconnected.
Well, we're learning, and we're learning. I mean, I'm used to the fact that because the Boston area had services and institutions and schools like Perkins and the Learning Center for the Deaf in Framingham, so on and so forth, I thought that would be the area where the disability community was concentrated. Most of my entire life, I thought that was where the concentration was. This transition plan, if anything else, is already an eye-opener for me, because 34.7% is a pretty big statistic for a disability community, and that's what we have in Fall River. So, you know, it's definitely bigger than any of us thought, I think. Is there anything?
Any other ideas, questions for the event, anything?
Wait for the proposal in May.
Okay.
Have you considered transportation, since that was not really a topic?
We didn't. We kind of stayed away. He made a good point from going to the Somerset lanes, only because the bridge, that whole, I don't want to go over the bridge bit.
That's what it is.
So that's why we chose the Westport location. But no, we didn't. We're in the early stages of planning this still. Yeah, that's a good point.
We've only really just begun discussing it ourselves with the last work group meeting. That's where it was really
We
first beginning to
also-
hash it out. And now this is where we're putting on the table for the record that there is something under consideration. And then hopefully by the next meeting, it will have coalesced into an either or, a definite or. We're definitely going to do something, but what should have its form and shape by the next meeting.
We also threw out the idea of, if we're going to do events like this, then we need some sort of way for individuals to contact us. And I don't really know, and I don't know if Dennis really knows where to go with this, if we're able to have like a voicemail through the city or email or something where individuals that are interested in events that, we put on can contact us.
Our working discussion came up with a lot of these
Yeah.
types of questions,
Yeah.
because part of the responsibility of the commission, and it's come up before, is what is the commission responsible for insofar as that we can actually provide for information. Say someone calls up, as we've had in the past, and there was a need for an interpreter. Well, who can provide that information? When part of our responsibility is to somehow direct that, or at least answer those
Refer
questions.
people.
And we've been getting now, as we say, well, who would we have as a contact point here in the city for an event like that? Now, my first thought goes to that we generally, the commission, if I understand correctly, was created, and it comes under the auspices, if I will, of the health department. So in a sense of speaking, it's almost already, that's an area designated for directing communications. So there's already a pathway laid in. Just now, how far can we take it so that we can actually, if we want to start registering people or helping people attend this event, because this event could be the model for future events. As I gather from my understanding, there's no real concrete models in the past. There have been events in the past, but none have actually been preserved for how it's been done, so that the questions we have now, they should have already been answered by now, I would think, over this longer time. But maybe now we can answer them and keep them answered from here on, and that way waste less time and get more things done, get more people involved. So,
Certainly, the city's website is an option. And I mean, that's an area where you could include a lot of resource information, contact information, special event information. So our MIS department is very flexible and very willing to create special pages. And you're right, it may very well be under the health department. We could look at that, but we can certainly work with you on how we might accomplish that.
but I know these kind of questions, issues would come up when I meet with the ADA, the planning group. They would in some way come up in some fashion, because they're not just isolated just to this event, what we're talking about, or any one individual or department. I want to make that sure, but there is a real universal aspect to it, and I'm hoping myself to bring it all together for everyone. As much as each of us represents a group or a particular demographic within disabilities, we still are all working together with people who are not disabled. And so it's making it work for everyone is oftentimes what I'm looking for. Back to you, Dennis.
I just don't want to cut off, any discussion or anything, so. Okay, is there anybody have anything else under this? Let's go to old business. And the only old business I have is I'm not sure when to trigger contacting the city council for getting on their ordinances and legislation committee. I think I'd like to wait till after the transition plan, if that's possible. But I just don't know what mechanism. Do I contact the clerk's office, or how
I
does
would
that?
think that would be the case.
How does that work?
Yeah, certainly, because I'm fairly certain the item's already in committee and was
Okay.
probably tabled there pending, because I know there was conversation that was going to happen between the taxi company and in
Okay.
terms of that. So if it's in committee, it's just a matter of requesting that the council, and specifically the chairman of the committee,
Okay, good, that's what I was
include
wondering.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll trigger that. I'll trigger that mechanism. I'm gonna wait till after the transition plan, self-assessment, and then I'll trigger that. And we'll certainly let everybody know when we hear. Under new business, I just got something before, where did I put it? Yeah, I just got something from Southeast Center for Independent Living to let everybody know about if they're interested in it. It's a workshop on assistive technology, and it's going to be on 166 Troy Street, Skills, Southeast Center for Independent Living. from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's being conducted by Easter Seals, the Director of Technology. So if people are interested, both on the commission and watching and listening to this meeting, you can contact the Southeast Center for Independent Living, Jessica Stone. You can either contact her by email, and she does give out her email address. It's her work email address. It's jstone, S-T-O-N-E, at secil.org. That's jstone at secil.org by May 3rd. So if you contact them by May 3rd, there's no charge. This is free. Or you can call them, you can call the Southeast Center at 508-679-9210. And so that's my public service announcement. The next meeting will be in May. And I'll wait to hear from Tammy about whether we want to structure some kind of public input during our meeting for the ADA transition and self-evaluation or self-assessment. I'll wait to hear from them about, that happening at our next meeting. But otherwise, it will be in May with no guests so far. And that'll be Thursday, May, what? 9th. So is there any other new business?
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
All right, thank you.